In this video, we're going to do a quick lesson on how to do dropdowns and inputs for dropdowns. So on your sidebar here inside of bubble.io, what you're going to want to do is under the input forms, you can click on dropdown, and then we'll just draw a quick little dropdown, right? So there's nothing in this automatically. It doesn't have anything to pull data from, right? So it doesn't have any things to grab, but it doesn't need to. We could have this be static choices. We could enter like a list of states here. We can do dynamic choices here, and any kind of thing we have already in the system listable as a type of choice. Let's start with static choices and just take a look at what we can do. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Just push enter between each one. That designates that they are each a different option. What I also like to do is do a default value. I usually just pick the first one in my list there, which would be 1, so that when somebody goes to this page, it will default to 1. Or if you're building an app and the most common thing someone's going to have is a number or one of the choices, put that choice as your default, and it's just to add to a user experience. You can make it so that this input should not be empty. That just means that if you had this going into a form, this input would have to be dropped down and filled in. So I will keep it like this, and we'll do a quick preview of what that looks like. Great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I can just have this be a section on anything I wanted to submit. So if I had a form here, I could have name up here, enter the type in the name, then create a drop down for like a role. So he'd be in role 1, and then I'll click save. Create a thing of an employee that has their name saved and a role. It's a quick, simple use case. Now I want to take a look at the more exciting way to use this, and that is to use a dynamic choice. So a dynamic choice is something that will actually pull from a type of choices. So on this page, I'm going to just make a example of how to create one. So I'll drag over an input. I'll drag over a button. This button will be inputs. Will be called save drop-down inputs. If I can type right. Perfect. Right, and I'm not going to dictate a workflow on that yet. Line these up because it looks nicer for me. Great. So the idea of what I have here is I'm going to just make it so I can type in something here, and I want it to show up by default in my list there. So what I want to do is I want to go to Start Edit Workflow here, add an action, data and things, create a thing. Type. We want to create a new type. Our new type will be down list option. Enter. Create a field. This new field will be name, and it will be a text just for simplicity right now. And this value will equal our input A's value. And then, and this is always important, you want to reset the relevant input. Now, what I just did there was made it so that if I type in something here, I can push here and it will save it, and this will reset. So this will go away. So to preview that functionality real quick here. And then basically I will type in testing 1, save, it reset that, it did that. How do I know that it did anything? I'm going to go back here. I'll check inside the database. So if I click on database, I can do drop down list options. I can click on app data, go to drop down list options, and I have testing 1. I was created, modified, anytime info I need on this, anything I'm tracking, it's all available right in here. So testing 1 is there. Perfect. So back on my design page, now that I have these in the system, I've created a type of things, I can use them. So I go to drop down list option for my types of choices, right? So this is a drop down that we are now going to choose dynamic choices instead of static choices. Right? So with static, we had the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With dynamic, we don't list the choices, we don't type them out, we pull a group of choices. So we pull from a drop-down list option. And then we have to basically do a search for it, right? So this allows us to have parameters. So we could have this be just our drop-down list option, right? And that's super easy to do. But say maybe I also had groups of companies inside of here, or groups of users, or I wanted different types of users to have different types of options that they can select. So maybe I have groups of users who are designated as have a user field of their role as truck driver. So maybe if the user role is truck driver, I limit a list by that, by having it be a truck driver list instead. So I can go over what that would look like too, and I'll do that in a little bit. But for now, we're just going to do, well, we don't actually have to do, we just have to do a search for options, right? So there is just do a search for the drop-down lists. And we want to use the option caption, will just be their name. That's the only thing we've designated right now. Perfect. Great. So now when we open this up, it has a default value of 1. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense given that we're now going to be using dynamic options. 1 doesn't make sense unless we typed it down here before, right? So what we can do is we can just leave that to choose an option. It's pretty simple in that way. Click preview here. I'm going to show you what we've done. So we now have testing 1, but testing 2. Testing 2, potato, Jesus, Luke, Leia. Boom, all those show up as options. And it's super simple, but there's a lot of utility in this, right? So when you think about the utility you have with this, you can have it be that you can have companies that are creating lists of different things, right? So you could have a company that says, all right, I want to create the ability for my team members to be able to choose through a list of options in a process. And that process can dictate what's on a drop-down menu for when they're filling out a form on your site. So maybe they're using a tool you built for tracking a custom process at their location. And when it gets to each individual job role, you have it so they go in and they click, it's now at this stage, and now at this stage, and now at this stage, right? But to do that, you're going to have to actually have them go in and enter in what they want to call each stage, because they're probably not going to call it stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. They're going to call it prefabrication. They're going to call it warehousing. They might call it it's in receiving. It moves to warehouse. It moves to prefabrication. It moves to finishing. It moves to shipping. And then finished, it's out the building, right? Like delivered. You might want to actually have that be a drop-down field. You can change on a product or on a project or something that you're working. And you want to have the ability to have them go in and dictate what those actual inputs are that they can choose from. So if anyone sees this and they would like me to do a video on how to make it so you could filter this based on giving different users different roles, I can make that video too. It would be a little bit longer. I also have a bubble course that talks about how to do a lot of this stuff, and I will link that in the description. The thing with Bubble is that a lot of parts work very simply, but if you start taking a lot of simple things and putting them together, you can really make a lot of complex functionality very elegantly, very easy, just inside the system, and it doesn't take that long to learn. So I encourage you to keep learning Bubble. I encourage you to keep trying with Bubble. Sometimes just running your face into a wall for an afternoon and then finally figuring out what little thing you were doing wrong is a whole lot of fun. And again, if you like this video, give it a like. The more people that follow, the more I'm going to be encouraged to want to make more Bubble videos and longer, more in-depth types of training for this type of stuff. So Appreciate the views. Hope this was helpful for you, and you have a great day.